Okay, so let's just start with the wall. So what we want to do is feel the hands and the feet, a bit like stethoscopes. They're instruments for listening to vibrations, yeah? So just placing the hand on the wall, and just imagine it's like the bell of the stethoscope, and it's just picking up information which is being channeled down the arm and into your dantian. Yeah. So if you're really sort of listening, you know, the arm would just naturally be bent. You'd almost be trying to get your ear as close to the hand as possible. Yeah. And then just with the other hand, and just feel the quality in the arm to actually listen with the hand. The arm can't be too straight and it can't be too forceful. If it's pushing on the wall too much, it's liable to inhibit the vibrations, yeah? So you're just really sort of just listening to what's in the hand and then just changing the hand again, yeah? And you can bring, you know, the energy that's coming down the arm from the hand and into the body, you can choose to take it into any of the centers, the belly, the heart, or the head. You know, so you can just bring it up into the head. So it's not the head as a thinking instrument, just as a feeling one. Or you can take it into the heart, or you can just really channel it down into the belly. Yeah. And then the other hand again. So just feel that if I want the hand to listen, it needs to be quite loose on the wall. But if I want the hand to bring the energy into my body, then I need a little bit of pressure because I push the wall and then the wall pushes back and will travel into my body. So it's like a trade-off between connecting to your own body and connecting to the wall, yeah? I mean, when I finish meditating and I'm sitting on my cushion on the floor, then I normally do this on the floor beside me. So I'll put my hand on the ground, either in front or behind or to the side, and just listen to the ground, yeah? Sort of reconnect with it in a really tactile way. So I'm not feeling it, I'm sort of listening to it, slightly different. So when you're feeling something, you're trying to feel sort of features inside it. So like, you know, the doctor will sort of palpate your belly to see if he can feel any hard lumps in there, which may be cancer. Whereas when he listens with the stethoscope, he's actually listening to rhythms, to vibrations, yeah? And that's what we just want to sort of just wake the hands up to that. And then what we want to do is just basically make the feet the same, yeah? So now just pick up one of the feet, doesn't really matter which one, whichever one doesn't have the weight in, yeah? And now just place it on the ground, just really gently, as though it's, again, like a stethoscope. So you're now, that your leg and your foot is now the stethoscope. So the foot is on the ground gently, and it's just listening. It's listening to sort of vibrations. And they're really sensitive, the feet, yeah? So with my speaking, I can feel the ground vibrating with it through my foot, yeah? So normally we cut off from the feet because as far as we're concerned, they're just there to move us around. but actually they're much more sensitive than the hands, really. Yeah. And then just bring the other foot up. Just let it empty and then put it down gently and just feel the ground. Whenever like cars go past my place, I can feel that sort of rumble. So there's all this information that we're picking up all the time, but we sort of block it out. And then let's just try the other foot. So maybe try the other hand and then just empty the foot first and then just place it lightly. Remember when we used to do the sticking with John? And he used to demonstrate, he'd get me there with my hand up and he'd put his hand on my hand. And he'd say, you know, you can actually penetrate through layers of the person's skin and flesh with your own sensitivity. And the deepest one is the spirit. So if you really settle onto the ground gently, but with a certain firmness, and just think in terms of just penetrating the ground and getting into it, then it's like at different layers, different levels, there's different information. It's really interesting. And then just the other foot, and just place it gently. So when it's gentle, you just feel what's happening in the surface of the ground, but then you can penetrate. So without pushing too hard, you sort of penetrate with your mind, you just intend the sensitivity of the foot through the ground. Yeah. And ideally, I should be able to hear what the people in the apartment beneath me are saying. Okay, so now let's just bring it to our riding horse. But now with that same sensitivity in the feet, just feel, you know, because we've got the weight on our feet now, we want that same feeling of lightness, yeah? So the feet are, you know, when you put your foot on the ground, if you don't want it to be too heavy, you sort of pull it away a little bit. So as it's falling on the ground, you're pulling it so that it doesn't become too heavy. It's the same feeling here. Part of me is just sinking with gravity, but another part of me is trying to lift my feet away from the ground so that they don't impose too heavily and so that I can use them sensitively. So it's just aspects of mind, really. And then I can just play with my weight, really. I can decide just how much of my weight goes onto the ground. You know, I can be really dull and heavy, or I can be really light with my mind and get this feeling that I'm sensing different layers and different levels. There's a bus just gone past. Okay. So we interact with the world, you know, through our legs, our arms, our mouth, and our eyes generally. And so associated with those, obviously with the legs, there's the hips. With the arms, you have the shoulders. With the mouth, you have the jaw. And with the eyes, it's more like the occiput and the temples, yeah? So all of those places tend to get tense because when we interact with the world, there's always anxiety involved. We don't realize it. But there's tension in all of these places. So the main thing really is just releasing them, yeah? And to start with anyway, it's always this one. So that the feet can actually really become sensitive instruments, yeah? So this sense of loosening the hips, of expanding across here and just all around the sacrum, just letting it go so it can just sort of hang heavily. And then the legs just naturally come up and just channel into the dantian. And then when you relax the jaw, yeah. So this is a lot of tension is held in the jaw. Just really feeling these points here, just really softening and expanding. Just almost like you're smiling inside, your face is widening. Yeah, so especially in the jaw, because when we're talking, when we're using language, there's always this sense that we're not quite saying what we want to say. And so there's always anxiety. There's always this sense that we're actually fibbing or lying, yeah? And it just produces a lot of tension, not just in the jaw, but in the whole body. Yeah? That was what, for me, that's what was amazing about when John used to talk. It used to just, it didn't come from his mind. And so you got no sense that he was translating something with his rational mind. It was the words were just bubbling up through him, yeah? Like a real poet, really. And then the shoulders, when the shoulders can release, then the arms properly belong to the heart. Because the head is always trying to claim the arms. So the head wants to control everything. So its main instruments are the arms, yeah? The arms and the mouth. So when the shoulders really relax and the arms channel through into the heart and they feel really low, it almost feels like the arms aren't yours, yeah? Because we're so used to them being up here. Just trying to keep with the feet as being these, like the stethoscope or the ears. You can almost imagine, like, the way the Red Indian scout will get off his horse and put his ear to the ground and say, oh, he can hear someone coming. So there's so much information beneath us, yeah. And we just want to be able to just listen to it. We don't have to interpret it. We just need to sort of let it channel through, let it come into the body, or into our awareness, into our consciousness. Yeah. Okay, now let's just breathe. Yeah, so just getting a bit of life into the spine, a little bit of movement. So the spine is just whipping forwards a little bit, and then the spine whips back. And you're just watching it with the mind. It all depends upon the sensitivity and the fineness, the refinement in your mind. We should be able to feel in the spine any places where it's sort of reluctant to bend. And just bring a little bit of mind there and soften it. So the mind is normally the thing that holds us back. So what we're trying to do is just develop it into a really useful instrument. And that is the mind that observes and listens rather than the mind that thinks. The thinking mind is really the enemy. Yeah, so just feel the dantian as the natural center of your body. So when the hips loosen, and I really integrate my legs into my body, then the Danchen is just the natural center. It's where the mind naturally wants to be. There's a storm brewing here. Yeah, so John always used to say the main thing in Tai Chi is getting your bum in. And so what that means now for us is just reducing the lordosis in the lower back so that my very bottom of my spine, my sacrum, can just melt into the legs. And so my legs are just extensions of my spine. And when you get that, then the mind will just naturally quieten. The chatty mind, the mind that talks to itself, requires there to be a split here. It's good. Okay, so let's just, so bringing it back to riding horse. So the main thing when we come back to riding horse is just getting this sense of these tentacles coming out of the sacrum, either side of the sacrum, and just reaching down to the feet. So the main problem, as I've said before, is that we're not really designed to stand vertically. We have the sort of the hips of like a chimpanzee. So, you know, the way when they walk, they're leaning forwards. Yeah. So we're designed to basically be like this. Yeah. Be like apes wandering around. So what we've done in order to get an advantage, or a vantage, so we pull up here, and so we straighten the upper back, and what it does, it just produces this curve here. Yeah. So what we should do, instead of straightening up, we should straighten down like this. Yeah. And then you get this feeling that the spine is just going down into the legs. And then you don't need this break here, because as soon as you introduce too much curvature in the lower back, you've split. You've now got, it's almost like you're sitting on a chair, like your legs are just this chair that you're sitting upon. So just this sense, and it has to be really soft, yeah? Because of course we're coming in and out of correct posture all the time. So there needs to be a certain stretchiness to the posture so that we can get it a little bit wrong without it snapping. Yeah. Okay, so now just moving by pulling. I'm drawing. I'm just pulling with the foot, just very gently. So I'm pulling my spine down into the foot. And this is, every time you step in the form, you have to do it like this. Because if I push myself onto the leg like this, then I settle onto it here. And that's when I get real problems in my knees. Yeah. So if I pull myself into the leg, then I can get a sense of stretching this tentacle down into the foot. So now it feels like I'm sitting on the ground rather than sitting on top of my hip. And so, but you have to see it. You have to really see it in your mind's eye. So the mind has to be quiet so that we can use this sort of sensitive faculty that we have, this ability to just see energy and see detail. If there's any, if I'm distracted in any way, then it just won't happen. And then I'll get clumsy and start doing it the wrong way. So I'm practicing wrongness rather than rightness. Yeah. So as I pull with the foot, I just feel something stretching. Yeah, so just be aware that when you're working like this, you're working on the lower back. You're working on softening the hips and the sacrum and the bottom of the lumbar spine. You're not working on the legs really. You're using the legs in order to work on this area, because this is where we keep most of our tension. Ooh. And it's sort of pulling you around like this. When I pull with this foot, it's trying to pull my back here. Yeah, so it's pulling me this way, but then I turn the other way. So there's this really sort of delicious sort of tension, a slight conflict between what my leg is trying to make my body do and what my interest is trying to make my body do. So it's almost like a conflict between mind and body, a good conflict, a rub. So okay. So again, just feeling, let's just try just a little bit of this one, yeah? And so lifting the foot, emptying it, and then just placing it down just really gently, like you're listening with it, and then into the foot. Yeah, so it's great here because there's a howling wind and there's thunder. So I can pick up all of that with my feet. So I place as gently as possible, toes first, and then the foot goes down. And as it goes down, it's sort of sucking at the ground. It's really interested. It's wanting to get as much information as it possibly can. Yeah, so we just want to develop like really eager feet, desirous feet, hungry feet. Yeah, so by using the feet like this, we basically just sort of sensitize them. And so even when you have all of your weight in the one foot, the foot is still listening. So the foot is alive, it's very much alive. It's not just this dead lump underneath you. Yeah. And just feeling, when you bring the knee up, it stretches the lower back. So that's when the lordosis goes. So you're always going sort of in and out a little bit. Yeah, so we just have to, they say, and one of the most useful things I've found in like the Tai Chi literature is just that saying that we want to use in Tai Chi, we want to use the legs more like arms and the arms more like legs. So you can just feel just how active your arms are. They gesticulate, they're really good at moving things around, they listen really well. So we just like the legs just to be the same, really. So I can place my foot, I can just feel the ground, and then I can decide, okay, now it's safe, now I'll go into it. And then this one comes up. And I just want to be able to just pull that knee right up so I stretch out the lordosis in my lower back. So just think how compressed your lower spine normally is, with gravity bearing down on you and these ignorant legs pushing up from the ground all the time. So we just want this whole area just to really sort of expand and loosen up, which is a tall order, but it is possible. When you start working on it, you think, God, this is impossible. But as the years go by, it does begin to loosen up. Okay, and now let's just bring it back, but again, with that feeling that your feet are dipping down in order to bring something up. So my legs are bending, not just to bring my body down, but to bring the ground up. So this is one of John's big things, yeah? The root is not you going into the ground, it's the ground coming up into you. And for that, you just have to make the feet really, really interested. They have to be really curious and inquisitive. So I'm quite convinced that if I was able to wave a magic wand and go bing, and then you'd all suddenly be enlightened, you'd be terribly disappointed. Because you'd just feel, shit, I'm like this often. Yeah. Because really it's just a state of just being really interested. You're so interested in what you're doing or what you're surrounded by. If you're meditating in complete darkness, and what is there? There's just you and you're breathing. Yeah. So that next breath is just so interesting. There's no time to attend to your shit. Yeah. And it's partly, in order to think to yourself, basically you have to close yourself off. You have to sort of make yourself like a bubble, and then the energy can circulate within. And so really it's becoming open-ended. What we're trying to do is just open the ends. I've got to open my feet, so that the earth can rush up and I can go down into it. I open my eyes so that all there is what I see. There's no sense of me. Yeah? And just being really sensitive with the arms and the hands. Now, it's easy to be like that. You know, we're often like that whenever we're doing something or we're interested in something. We forget self, yeah? But the test is to be like that when you're not doing anything, when you're sitting meditating, and then the temptations all the time is to start talking to yourself. Because what we're trying to do really is slip beneath, is get deep, yeah? So if you're always needing to be distracted by interesting things to actually give you a sense of internal quiet, then you're never going deep, yeah? Okay, now let's just turning the shoulders, but not the hips too much. Don't lock the hips, just let them just almost set. Don't let them move too much. So just trying to activate these muscles in the lower back. And again, just keep it open-ended. Keep the feet always relaxing onto the ground. It's not enough just to relax them. It has to be an ongoing process. Otherwise, things will just naturally close down. This is the problem. So what are we open to? It's like what Heidegger called the fourfold. Yeah? So for me, my version is just like the earth or the ground, the sky. Yeah, so we're feeling this all the time. This is drawing something out of me the same way that the ground is sucking something out of me. The ancestors, you know, your past in a sense, but not just your ontogenetic past, not just your individual past, but the past of your species and of life in general. Yeah. So this sense that somewhere I have a memory of when I was an amoeba or an octopus, or, you know, so all of those things are inside me. So we worked a lot on that with John when we were in Blakeney, the ancestors. Yeah, that was the iceberg, really. So the bottom of the iceberg that was beneath the ocean was the ancestors. Yeah, and then there's the teaching. So we have to really remain open to that. And then together they just all combine to produce this sense of a future, this sense of a destiny that's actually just really wanting to just gush out of you and take you forwards. It's pissing it down now. Yeah, so it can just turn into waving hands, or it can go the other way. Just depends how you feel it. And again, we're just trying to relax into the lower back. Want the lower spine to be really dominant. That's the thing we feel most. All the time, my sacrum is relaxing down each leg, but more this leg, although this is being sucked here. Yeah, so when I turn away from the leg, the foot is sucking the tentacle out, and then I pull into it and it draws me round. And then just let it go into just turning the waist. But again, with this real sense that the spine is splitting at the sacrum and going down the legs. So just keep the legs, the sacrum, and the lower back soft. If you do that, you won't be able to think to yourself. Okay. So that's just, so again, just this real feeling that you're reaching down to these really sensitive, inquisitive feet. And the feet are collecting messages. Yeah, so everything that we do requires relaxation and it requires spirit. So your energy needs to be in decent shape. Yeah. This is, John's main complaint about me, when he used to work with me, was basically, I used to work so hard. When I came to him, my energy was shit. I was just tired and didn't really want to be there. Yeah. And so there's something in you that's just like the eager beaver. You're just really, you can't wait for the next bit. Like a child, really. And it is just a matter of spirit. We think, oh, we're old now and everything, we're not children anymore. But when you start working on this area, you get it all back. Yeah, because basically that sort of settled uniformity and conformity. These two things that people want, yeah. It's basically just from, this goes back and, people get a bit fat when they get older. They get a paunch, a pot belly. Yeah, so it's just a sign that they've just let go of the wrong thing, yeah. So we need to be holding things together, but not with too much tension, with a spirit that's really bright. Okay, so let's bring it up. I'll need to finish now because I have to go and get Ty from the bus stop. So this is where we tend to get the bum sticking out. Yeah. So when the legs straighten, that's when we get the lordosis. So when we're standing like this, just this real sense that the spine is extending down the back of the legs. So the hamstrings are wanting to tighten a little bit to claim these two tentacles that are coming out of the sacrum, but these are tightening as well to stop my legs bending. Yeah. And so there's this, again, there's this sort of dynamic tension, a good tension between the front and the back of the legs. And what it produces is basically this circuit in the legs, yeah, coming up the front and down the back. Okay.